Hello, welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and 10 Types.
Yep. Hello, everyone. And big news, I guess, for me. But it doesn't matter for you. But I reached 1,000 subs. Thank you, everyone, so much. And so subscribe to both our channels. I guess that's a good reminder now.
Yeah,
Uncommon Fossil, you're getting close. You're at, what are you, 880 something?
yeah, somewhere 880, getting close to 890. So I was going to say congratulations, but since you congratulate yourself, I don't need to say anything about it. So you took care of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
And so I think with that out of the way, it's time to anything we need to talk about before we hop into things.
no, I think we are, at the time this drops, less than a week away from Temporal Forces. I think it
Yeah. Oh,
comes.
actually, there are. Sorry, there. I realized there was something we need to talk about.
Okay.
I guess. So there's news with Twin Leaf. There was like a trailer or something.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it looked fine. I actually didn't watch it. I didn't finish it. It was admittedly only 25 seconds long, but I didn't finish it. So, yeah. I might talk about that later, or we might talk about that later. There isn't really much to say about it. I mean, we've had a lot of like weird news about it for a while, and it's just more. I don't know if it's weird news. It's more clear than we've seen in the past. But yeah, and I think it's official, but I don't know. It's not on the website or the official Twitter page, which is now not official anymore because it's not linked to the website. But anyways, yeah.
Okay. All right. And I guess there was a video on some new Pokemon cards, mechanics, whatever, by Pokemon released. I would not get into the details, but they chose to release as a separate video, not part of the Pokemon Day with all the other videos.
Yeah. Wait, new mechanics or just new
Or some new
cards? There were a
cards,
bunch of
I
new
guess.
cards. This
Yeah.
past week there were 3 new sets revealed. But they're all the same set. But
Right. But they also had like a video, like a 2 minute video this past week, right? Which they could have
uh,
included in Pokemon Day a couple weeks ago, but they didn't want to do that.
yeah, I think it was I don't know. I think it was on Ogrepon EX. I saw it. I think it wasn't a new mechanic, but it was some new cards.
Yeah, I think it was like a
Kind of
group
fun.
of, yeah, group of new cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of new cards revealed, as I said, but yeah, the Ogrepon were revealed in English for our new set Twilight Masquerade, which is coming in May, I think. It's the next set
Yes.
after Temporal Forces.
Yeah, sometime in May. I think it's once again two months before the next set, so they're coming quick these recent days. But anyway, I think that's enough of the future stuff. We have Temporal Forces less than a week away, so we wanted to do our top 10 cards for Temporal Forces. I think we both have a list of 10 cards plus some honorable mentions. Before we get into this, though, what I've seen on some other channels that have listed that as these are the top 10 cards. There's more than 10 cards on them because they're grouping cards together. And I haven't done that. I took this serious. I want to keep our integrity as a podcast at a high level. So I've kept it to only 10 cards in the top 10. I don't know. Did you do the same thing?
Yeah, we do have honorable mentions, but those aren't in the top 10. There are some cards that are kind of hard to differentiate that I guess they're not even on my honorable mentions, but that's fine. I guess we'll talk about them if you don't bring them up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean some cards do naturally go together. Some are like essential, very similar. But yeah,
Right.
I saw some lists had like a lot of things grouped together that weren't really the same.
Right. There's the new the ace in the ace specs, the one for the ancient Pokemon and one for the future Pokemon. And honestly, separately is how I evaluated them, and neither makes the top 10 to me. But when you group them together, they might, which other lists then put them on the top 10 because they stick the two together. And obviously, they're two very separate cards that you can't even play in the same deck because the one's ancient, one's future, and they're both ace specs, right? So they're just two separate cards as far as I'm evaluating things.
Yeah, and I think there are some people who would just say, "Oh, ace specs are like a thing," and they're obviously all different. They are very good, I guess. I mean, they're going to be played in every deck. There's essentially other than accessibility, which on
Right.
live I don't think is a big issue. There is no issue to You should always be playing one, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And they're giving us one in the starter decks too. Maybe even
Which
two.
is
I
it?
mean,
I
not the
didn't look
starter
at
decks.
them.
I mean, in the
Battle Pass.
battle pass. One of them, which is a very good one. That's all I'll say at this point. They're giving us it in one of the starter decks, or well, you upgrade to it.
Okay.
So we'll say that.
Um,
And certain things like say there's like a future box, right? That's good. Or I don't even know if it's good, but it's really the second deck on the premium battle pass. But those cards individually to me aren't very good. So again, like I've seen lists where they stick like three of them together or something as one card.
Yeah, and obviously they're not one card. But anyways, I think that's it. So we're
Yep.
each going to start with our honorable mentions. I guess I'll just go through mine first.
Yep.
Firstly, I have P. Oh, sorry. We are looking at Justin Basil's website of proxies. These are
Yes.
really useful. They are not official. They presumably do exactly what they say they do, but the attack names, potentially trainer names, are wrong. Uh,
Yes.
so keep that in mind. We'll try to use the correct names. We will probably fail. Um,
Right.
yeah,
I know a couple of them. I've written down what the correct terms are for them. But yeah, again, I think all the what they actually do, the effect of the trainer or what the attacks do, is all correct.
yes. And the Pokemon names are as well. So yeah, I have P-Dove though, which is colorless basic Pokemon with 50 HP. It does 10 for one colorless, but it has this funky little ability here, Emergency Evolution. Once during your turn, this doesn't really matter the once during your turn, but if this Pokemon's remaining HP is 30 or less, you may
Hmm.
search your deck for an Unpheasant or Unpheasant EX and put it onto this Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. So this is not very good because we don't have a particularly good Unpheasant. There is one in this set which is okay, I guess, but not that good.
Yeah.
But the main draw of this is that presumably there's going to be an Unpheasant EX, and presumably it'll be somewhat decent because most EXs are pretty decent.
Right. And there are some things in that 30 HP or less number has some importance with some of the cards too in the set. So maybe there's going to be some ways to make that.
In this set?
Well, there's a switching card, right, that has an
Oh,
impact
yeah, yeah,
to it. There's Full Metal Lab, which I assume isn't on your list.
yeah.
It's not on mine again. So I'm just right. I mean, there's some things.
Yeah, and the way you get this down to 30 is going to be um, Gapeshot Bog, which is a stadium that'll you'll place 2 damage counters on you when you play it. And I didn't ask, but I'm assuming this is not on your list.
It is not. I will say it if it is. So
Okay.
no, right? Yeah, because it is interesting. I've obviously paid attention, but the unpheasant's just not good, and the unpheasant is a stage two. So you immediately go on the turn you play it, you're getting it potentially a stage two into play, which is nice, but not a particularly good one right now.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to say about these cards, I thought they were pretty hard to rank because there are a lot of, not necessarily this one, but because there are a lot of cards that were pretty good. Nothing to me that is standout amazing. I don't know. You might have some differing opinions on it. I certainly think there are some cards that are quite good, but um, there are a lot of cards that are pretty solid, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I think yeah. I don't think there's broken cards in the set, which is good for me. And there are a number of interesting cards, but a lot of them are, there are some good cards, and there's a number of interesting cards, which I like. Which the interesting cards probably mostly won't be good, but it'll be fun to test out.
Yeah. So what do you have on your honorable mentions? What's
Okay,
your first one?
my first one. This one might be on your top 10, and it's Cipher Maniac's code breaking, I believe, is
Yeah,
the.
I do have that one on my top 10. So,
So we'll save that for
yeah, I'll
later.
save that one. All right, yeah, you just go through yours, I guess, and we'll
Okay,
see.
I'll do it just in alphabetical order. This one also might be on your top 10 list. Emergency board.
That one is not.
Okay, and it's not even an honorable mention.
No, I think it's
Well,
whatever. I
okay,
mean,
so
it's not bad.
so this is the argument. The plus first, a retreat reduces the retreat cost by one, which is one's
Yeah,
not
and it's a
great.
tool. It's a tool.
And it's a tool, yes. Sorry, it's a tool. And if it's 30 or less, which gets into that aspect of I'm not sure if that's going to come into other things. It has no retreat cost at all, so you could may have value with that. I don't know. Helping retreat is good, right? Air balloon was a very good card back in the day, not that long ago, right? And obviously, that's two though. This is one. And Floatstone, of course, is tremendous and expanded. Um, which is for, no retreat cost, but it'll have some value, is what I'll say. A tool to reduce retreat cost is important, I think.
Yeah, I think this is mostly just good in Lost Zone. I think it's pretty good in Lost Zone. It kind of replaces Beach Court, but not exactly.
Right.
The Beach Court's a stadium. This is a tool. They're different. But yeah, we are losing Mew from Celebrations. That will be rotating. I guess we didn't say Temporal Forces is coming right when rotation happens. So
Yes.
yeah, we'll be losing all the stuff, like all the battle styles, era stuff, all the Fusion Strike stuff. Most of the VMAXs. And so, yeah, but we will be losing Celebrations and Mew, which I think could have been good with this, but obviously it won't be. So I think it's mostly good with Comfy. It's
Yeah.
not really like a it's pretty underwhelming to reduce a Pokemon for two cost from 2 to 1 because you're still committing a card to it. So I think it's like good and awesome, but it's not even broken in that or anything, and it's pretty underwhelming in most other scenarios.
Yeah, one thing with how we approach it, I think we're looking largely about how it impacts things now, but also how it's going to go long term going forward too, which we don't know. And I think emergency board will probably spike up in usefulness down the road at some point.
Maybe if we get a Pokemon like Mew from Celebrations or
Yeah.
something of that caliber. We saw Jirachi, a few different Jirachis. There's Comfy, but Comfy is not like an every deck type of card. But if we do see the every deck type of card with Emergency Board, it would be very good.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to? And I have one more. Do you want me to name that one?
Yeah, let's see it.
And this is probably not yours. This one's Wug Trio EX.
Yeah, that one's not on mine.
Which twofold. First, it's a Wug Trio, which we know that it evolves from Wiglet, so it could go in your Wug Trio mill deck, right? Because you can power it
Um,
up. It gives you an
I,
option to take prizes, right? It's depending how the game
well, but
goes.
you're not necessarily playing Water Energy in that. You
You
probably
have
are, but
to, but
you
because
have to.
well, to attack with this, obviously,
Well, yeah, no, I know that. Not to it, but not with the single prize Wug Trio.
yeah, I know. We lose Raihan because the basic energy obviously helps with things like that because you could accelerate with Raihan and grab a DTE and attack with that too. But
Yeah, now you might run Fire with Mela, right? That can make sense.
you might. But first, it could go in that. Look, I like the triple pump is interesting. Look, it's not great, but 250 HP is obviously a solid number on a stage one. And you just for one water and one energy's attack are always good. You can power up immediately. You discard up to 3 energies from your hand. It does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each card you discarded that way. So discarding energies isn't too bad because we can recover them, as we know, pretty well. And then hitting the bench to put 180 on a turn as an option is very nice. So it could become part of its own of other decks. I don't think it's probably going to be its own deck. Could be obviously go in other attacking decks that have the water energy. I can also see it in the Wug Trio mill deck as I want to try it out because you mill their hand down, they lose the ability to switch. You gust up something they don't want there, and then just start smacking the bench away. I can see that as a way to speed up the end game and kind of take them out of a comeback.
Maybe. One thing that it does also a Terra Pokemon. It is Lightning,
Hmm.
so it uses Water Energy, but it is Lightning type, which is
Yes.
probably good. And so you can hit Lightning Weakness. Lightning Weakness. We'll talk about. Actually, we might not, but
I think we will, at least
you
some.
think we will? Okay.
Well, yeah,
I personally don't think. Yeah. So that can be a nice weakness to be hitting, and or at least it's another weakness, so it could have use there. But it is an
right.
evolution, so tacking it in, it is at least 2 cards.
It is hitting, but the 180 to the bench is a very nice option, right? There's not a lot of ways you can do that, so it's it's just something to keep in mind to me.
Yeah. I have a few more honorable mentions.
Yep,
I have, let's see, I guess I'll go with another kind of silly, goofy card that I think it has some potential. That's Bramblegast. Is this on your top 10?
it is not. So
Okay. So it's a basic, or it's a stage one single prize with 350 HP if your opponent's taking a lot of prizes. So pretty much it has 100 HP, but for each prize your opponent's taking, it gets 50 more.
yes,
So if they're taking 5, it's 350. And Powerful Needles is for grass colors. So you flip a coin for each energy attached. This Pokemon does 80 for each heads.
yeah.
You can play this with like Fortress EX, which is one of your favorite Pokemon.
Ah, there we
You don't,
go.
yeah.
Yeah,
So then you can like have lots of HP and like do lots of damage, maybe. So
right.
it's kind of funny. I think it's gonna make some really funny videos. It's not actually terrible. I think it definitely has some potential, and it's like really high HP. Also, we are talking standard. So yeah, I think it's okay. I think it has potential definitely, and I think it's I don't think it's just like a silly Pokemon, but it is pretty silly. But it can have like absurd amounts of HP, so you could play it in like a stall based deck as well.
It could do that. Yeah, I mean, although yeah, I mean, look, it would be much better if Cherim wasn't rotating. That could accelerate energy to it. It'd be much
Yeah.
better if it could go in Zoroark also, which of course is rotating as a stage one, and because you maybe want to power it up with your reversal energy, right? So it would be an option in a Zoroark box potentially too, which obviously can't happen because those things are rotating. So it's not right now. The format isn't great for it. I don't think.
Yeah. And then I have two more cards. I
Yep.
have Dangerous Jungle.
Okay, not on my list
I
either.
think that's actually the wrong translation. I don't know the right term for this one. But yeah, anyway, it's a stadium during Pokemon Checkup, which is essentially in between turns.
Hmm.
Then put between both turns. It's when you do poison. So put 2
Right.
damage counters on for each poison Pokemon, 2 more. So except for Darkness Pokemon, which is a bit of a problem, is Darkness is really good. Specifically,
Yeah.
Charizard's really good, and it has a lot of HP. But ignore
Right.
that. Um, and so you can pair this with, there are a few ways to poison, and then you can you do big poison damage, and then you also get to I don't know, you just do bigger poison damage. You can
Right.
amplify it even more with Radiant Hisu and Sneasler,
Hmm.
so you can be doing 50 poison, which is a bunch.
Yeah, and I think are there some attackers that put extra poison counters on as well beyond just
Uh,
the one. I don't remember.
yeah, there are some. I don't know how, if I'd say they're like that good. I can't think of any that are super good, but
Right.
I mean, if you're doing like lots of poison, I guess it's good. Um, but and you compare it with, there are a few combos, but nothing super powerful.
Yeah, I mean it'll have some play in a few things, but I don't think it's gonna. I don't see it as a huge card, but yeah, it
Okay, and then lastly, I have a card that is a huge card. This could be on your top 10, but it probably isn't, and it's Torterra EX.
and that is in my top 10. So yes,
Okay, so we'll save that. You want to go in? You want to go into your top 10 now?
sure. So my number 10 card, which you're gonna say doesn't belong on the list, I imagine. I sometimes I wonder if it belongs, but it's a stage two Gengar
Hmm.
EX, 210
Well,
HP.
what?
What?
I was literally making fun of that card before we started. What? This card's terrible.
It's not terrible. I see.
It goes. It might have been last on my list of all the EXs. It
So
might not have been. It might have been like second or third.
it's an interesting one, is what I'll say. So it's a stage two, which of course is always a drawback. 310 HP, which is fine, not good,
A
not
little low,
yeah,
I think.
a little low, but not terribly low, right? 320 is good, right? So it's like 10
I think
lower.
320 is like average, maybe.
Okay, yeah, so 310 is slightly below average, right? I think it's
Yeah, I
fair to
get
say.
it is what it is. It's whatever.
Look, if it's 300, I get more concerned. Anyway, it's not terrible for HP. It's got the gnawing curse, which will stack, right? I believe. Whenever your opponent attaches
Yeah.
an energy card from their hand to one of their Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So it's interesting, right? Um, and if your opponent, you get what you need, you get them all in play. Your opponent can't then jet energy on their Comfy, right? Because it gets knocked out immediately. That's awesome, right? Um,
Yeah. Well, wait, does it switch in and then get knocked out?
when does the jet energy activate? You mean?
Yeah, I think it can be either order. Um,
Oh, it might be. Although
anyway, it doesn't matter that much.
but look, but it does stack though, right? So because your poison is putting 2 extra damage counters on that stadium, right? Here you're putting two
Yeah,
damage
but that's a
counters on,
stadium, not a stage 2
but you
EX.
have to poison. This is people want to attach energy, and it's also from hand. So there's other cards that accelerate from hand, and that gets
Well,
very
yeah, if they're
meaningful.
like Caliber,
Or
then yeah, this
Gardevoir
could be
EX.
good. Well, no, that's
Oh
from
no,
the
that's from
discard.
discard. I'm sorry. So right, Caliber and I think there's the metal one, right? Is that from hand or no?
Which, the new one?
Yeah.
No, that's from the deck.
Okay, so if so certainly Caliber accelerates from hand. I don't know if there's I don't know if any supporters are from hand or not, or items from hand.
Gardenia's bigger. Yeah.
Right. So which we know how powerful that is. And then tricky step. Look, you get some damage. You get a couple of these in play. Get like 4 damage counters on a Pokemon can help take the knockouts, right? And then you move it, and it does 160. And depending on it, you move in energy on the tricky steps attack, if that's correct, for 2 darkness. And then you move an energy from the active to the bench, and it's your choice. So you don't have to do it if you're going to knock it out.
Yeah, your opponent's active. Yeah.
Right, they're active to the bench, right? Not your own, because we don't, because hopefully it's not getting knocked out. If it does, it's just not. It's going to be terrible. But as
Yeah,
an
that would never happen.
oh, it could, but
It could definitely live hits.
oh yeah, yes. I mean, it's fighting week, but everybody's not going to be playing fighting decks, and most decks aren't hitting 310 in one turn, right?
Yeah. I guess.
So I think it's
Certainly
kind of
not earlier.
I think it's kind of interesting, is what I'll say. To mess around.
Wait, but you didn't say why it's good.
I think putting damage counters on is has value.
But we've seen this ability like a bunch of times.
I think moving
It's like always
energy,
that.
I think disruption is a good thing too. because because if you're not knocking him out, you move the energy to the bench, um, and I move it, right? I choose where it goes, I believe, based on the
Well, yeah,
wording.
but that's not like that insane. I mean, it's a nice little benefit, but
It
it's not
stops
doing
them from
that much.
setting up their bench, though. Part of the thing is when you don't get knocked out, which is always a good thing, um, or at least almost always a good thing, then you can start setting up your bench for the next turn, for the next attacker. But here they have to attach to the attacker again, and I move the energy to something that they don't want the energy on.
Well,
So,
it's better just to knock it out. I mean,
well,
it's
if I
2 energy on a
can,
stage 2.
I think as an option in in some dark decks, get the damage levels up to what you need it to be. I think it has some benefit there too. So
See, I feel like there's literally there's a card that it evolves from the card that your channel was named after. That was this, but like a stage 1
yeah,
that didn't see any play, and it's a stage 1. Well, I mean, it's obviously evolves from a fossil, but um,
right, which makes it worse, as we know.
yeah, but it's still easier to get into play than this, I imagine, and it's also like it doesn't give up 2 prizes. Yeah.
So I think it's gonna. I think it could be fun, and I think it could cause some trouble. And I think if people, I think with some work, it will. Looking to catch people off guard, and it's not going to be. It's. I don't think the card's completely garbage. That's what I'll say, and I think you do. I think you think it's
I do.
garbage.
Yeah, I do. Um, I'm
So
not convinced.
okay,
So I'll go on to my number. Yeah, this was not like in the running for my
okay.
my top 10. So I have one. This might be higher on your list. I have Airy.
Yeah, Aries on my list. We'll save it. Um,
Okay. So
actually,
I'll go.
no, you know what? Aries 9 on my list. So why don't we discuss it now? So we're
Yeah. Okay.
basically the same spot.
Yeah. So Airy is a supporter card that says your opponent reveals their hand. Choose up to 2 item cards you find there and discard them. This will not discard tools because they are not items.
Yep.
And so I think most people know that, but there are some who might not. And so this is obviously good because if your opponent is playing, if you're playing control, your
Hmm.
opponent will want to like switch out. You can stop that. But more
Right.
importantly, or I mean, not necessarily more importantly, but it can get lots of things. It's not like it only gets switch. It can get ball search. It can get lots of things.
Right.
It's very good in control. It's not broken in control. I think some people are saying it's broken. My first reaction was I thought it was really good, but it's not quite as good as I thought. But it can also be played in a deck like Arceus V Star or another deck that has that isn't necessarily the most powerful attacker, even something like Charizard EX, just to disrupt your opponent. Because I mean, it's annoying to have to deal with.
Yeah. No, I think. Well, right. Snorlax is kind of the obvious candidate for this, and I don't want to see Snorlax get better. I don't want to be. I think it's fine, but I don't want to see it too good. And I'm concerned that it's going to be overly strong. Now Snorlax is losing some pieces, so I think this kind of makes up for the losses probably. Whether it puts it in a better spot or not, we will soon find out. Um, so any type
I
of
think, yeah.
go ahead.
One thing I want to say is some like it does get switch, but if you are playing Snorlax, your opponent will probably just play the switch when they draw into them. So it's not like, oh, my opponent's like hoarding all these switches in their hand. I'm just gonna punish them. It could be it's most useful against like Lost Zone where they do potentially have multiple switch in a hand, but most of the time this isn't punishing in the same way that Misfortune Sisters can be punishing your opponent. Like when
Hmm.
they aren't doing anything.
Right. Oh, the other place where it might go better is with a mill deck, where you're milling with your attack each turn, so you don't need to. So you're taking care of the deck already, and your opponent's kind of building up their hand size. And particularly with a mill deck, you're trying to stall up something generally along the way to slow them down a few turns. So if you can gust up on occasion and then get rid of some items in hand, as well as milling the deck, I think that makes a powerful combo.
Yeah, I guess it depends obviously on the situation. I think it's pretty good. As I said, I have it at 10. I think it's
Mhm.
I have mixed feelings on it. I'm not sure if I think it's super good or if I think it's like kind of mediocre, but it certainly is annoying to have to deal with.
Yeah, it'll have value. It's not the most interesting card that we're going to discuss, but yeah, we're certainly going to see people playing it. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. So you said this was your number
That was
9.
number 9. So why don't you give us your number 9?
Yeah, my number 9 is Mist Energy.
Okay, which is not on my list. So
Yeah, I figured it kind of flew under the radar for me until I like looked at it. I was like, this card's really good, including for control,
mhm.
and stall, I guess more importantly. So as long as it's a colorless energy, a
Yep.
special energy, as long as it's attached to a Pokemon, it provides colorless energy. Just one, that's pretty common. That's how most work.
Right.
Prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to the Pokemon this card's attached to. So this doesn't stop damage, and it says existing effects aren't removed. But pretty much what this will stop is damage counters from something like Sableye
Mhm.
or um, what else places damage? A Mimikyu that places damage counters, and
Yeah,
then it'll
there's a
also
few.
stop um, instant KOs, right?
Right.
And
That
so the idea, huh,
I mean, that's the bigger piece, right? You have your Roaring Moon, you have your Giratina V-Star that just knock out a Pokemon. Here, Mist Energy on the active. Sorry, you're not taking me out.
yeah, but it can be used on the bench to stop those like Sableye pings. So
Yes.
that can be useful. There is Jirachi, so I think Mist Energy is better because I mean it's more universal. But outside of that, it also is. I mean, if you put it on, I mentioned Mimikyu, but if you put it on a Mimikyu, now that Mimikyu is immune to all damage
Hmm.
from EXs and any effects from any Pokemon, so your opponent will need to go in with something like a Cramorant or
Hmm.
Baxcalibur or something. There aren't that many options though. Like it shuts down most of their options.
Right, because right, because Mimikyu, like the Mew EX, is always a problem because it places it copies your attack, which does 7 damage counters, but now it would stop those damage counters being placed as well in that situation. And I think Mist Energy is very good in Lugia, and I think we might come back to Lugia again, putting excelling this on keeping your Pokemon safe from Sableye or being one shot with Roaring Moon or something is a very strong and potentially with you can protect 4 Pokemon in a Lugia deck with it spread around your Mist Energy, which is quite nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Mist Energy's pretty decent in Lugia. I don't think it's super good in Lugia, but it's a nice little addition. And you said we might come back to it, which I guess that means we will. Um, but
You don't seem
yeah,
happy about that.
yeah. Anyway, so what's your number 8 then?
So number 8 is one. It's Great Tusk. So you gotta.
Okay, I have that a little higher.
Okay.
Let's
So we'll
pull
save that
back. I
for
think you're
later.
underrating it a little, but yeah.
Okay.
So and mine's Fluttermane.
Okay, which is not on my list. So.
Okay, so Fluttermane is I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think about this card. With its ability, it's apparently translated here as witching hour flutter. But pretty much it says it is an ancient Pokemon as well. It has a usable attack, nothing
Hmm.
insane, but it is colorless. um, Relatively weak, but it can be played in Gardevoir. But the ability Witching Hour Flutter, as long as this Pokemon is in the active, your opponent's active has no abilities except for this one. If so, that means two Fluttermanes don't cancel each other out.
Hmm.
But yeah, so this is useful against something like Comfy or mostly Comfy, but also if your opponent's playing like Arceus V-Star, then
Hmm.
and the Arceus V-Stars in the active, or Charizard and the Charizard's in the active, or Pidgeot's in the active, all these different things. Maybe not Pidgeot, because that does have for your retreat,
Yeah.
but obviously there are a lot of Pokemon in the game with abilities that they want to use, and this is a bit of a pain to deal with, especially with no escape rope. Although escape rope could potentially, or I don't know, and it's gone. So
Right.
yeah, I think this is pretty annoying to have to deal with, and its attacks 90 for 3 colorless, and then 20 to your opponent's bench in any way you like, or 2 damage counters, I should
Right.
say. Its attack's not that good, but it's not
No.
terrible. I mean, it gets the
Well,
job done
no,
if
the
you.
attack's terrible. 90, you
It's
got to
not
get 3
terrible.
energy. I can't even use a reversal energy because it's a basic Pokemon. So I
Well,
don't
yeah,
want to
but it's
put 3
better than
energies on this.
like Empoleon V or Mimikyu, in my opinion, because it's. I mean, you can play in any deck and you can attack with it, but the idea is you're really disrupting your opponent. It's obviously there for
Right.
the ability, but the attack will, I think, get the job done. Um, if you really are like if you're up against Lost Zone, I mean, and they're just like 3 turns behind, I mean, it'll put on a little bit of pressure. It's
Yeah.
not like when I say gets the job done, it puts on some amount of pressure.
Yeah, look, I don't think the attack's very good at all, but I think the abilities, it's
Yeah, it's not
interesting.
like what you play it for, obviously, but
Um, Obviously, the escape board you can retreat it out if you attach that to it. if you kind of stall up and at some point you need to switch into your attacker, right? So a skateboard or a switching card as you set up your bench. So but the fact that it only stops the opponent's active Pokemon's abilities is pretty limiting, right? Usually you want those abilities on the bench. That's your attacker goes in the active spot, using the abilities on the bench generally.
I guess, but like you shut down Powers as well. I think it's annoying, and also it is good in Gardevoir EX. I think it's pretty nice there. I think it's a nice little option. We might talk about other ancient Pokemon, we might not, but if you are playing some sort of ancient box style deck, this is a nice little addition that is a bit of a pain. It's really good against Lawson as well, and Lawson is really good.
Yes, yeah. I mean, against Comfies, and obviously, like you said, the loss of rope means they can't just chase it out easily. So, yeah, do you want to give up that bench slot in the deck spot, in a bench spot in a deck slot for it? Maybe it'll see play. It'll see play. I don't think it's very interesting. I think it's gonna be a little limited to its value.
Yeah, I mean it's not super high value. It's like it's kind of mediocre, but I think it's kind of mediocre in a way that like we've seen other cards like this see play, and I think this
Yeah.
is like we've seen well, there's Wobbuffet, which is really good and better than this.
Hmm.
But then, like in standard or recent standard, there's Empoleon V
Yeah.
and Clef Key, and I think there might have been there's Ting-Lu, and those have all been like okay, certainly really good at certain points, and somewhat mediocre at others. But I think it's a little better than those because it has an attack that is honestly the best of any of those, or at least doesn't require you to build around it because it is all colorless.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's not. It deserves some attention, is what I will say. That's as much as I'll give for it.
Okay, I think it's better than Gengar EX.
I think it might be. I think Gengar EX is a lot more interesting. I think it's and I think it's boring. So,
Yeah, that's fair, I guess.
all right. So was that number 8 on your list?
Yeah.
Okay. So 8 for me is.
No, you
Oh, I
said eight
said
for
8 already.
yours.
Yeah, that's
Your
right. You
test,
said yours
right?
is higher, right? So sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So shall I give? So number 7 for me is one you did an honorable mention of, and that is Torterra EX.
Yes.
Which is what I'm hoping will be good. It's grass type. Grass type has been very disappointing for a long time. So I'm certainly prepared to be disappointed, but I'm slightly hopeful. Torterra, and it does, there is the Grottle in format that lets you, the stage 1 that lets you search out a grass Pokemon once per turn, which will be great in this deck. Forest, it's 340 HP, so this one's tanky, right? I think you'll admit to that.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as your opponent doesn't play fire and like toss an Entei in their Charizard deck, you're okay, right? If they toss the
Yeah, I don't know. There are issues that can occur, but it's pretty good.
it's 340 HP. It's a stage 2. That's the downside, but it does, the fact that Torterra is good because it evolves from Grottle plus besides Rare Canning, and the attack here does Forest March, if that's correct. I don't know. For 1 grass, does 30 damage for each grass Pokemon you have in play. So 180 for 1 energy is solid, right? It's not, you're not one-shotting multi-price Pokemon. That's the downside, but you're one-shotting pretty much the vast majority of single-price Pokemon, and you're two-shotting other 2-price Pokemon, and you're hopefully not getting two-shot yourself. You have a chance of that, right? And we do have healing options, right? There is the new, the grass Pokemon that when you play it heals, I believe. Heals your
Yeah,
grass and play.
it's okay. Yeah, it's like Shell. You do discard the energy as well, but
Right, but
yeah, I think it. And speaking of one shot, it will actually one shot. I mean, there are a number of basic multi prizes that it will one shot because
mhm.
it can 180, so it will one shot Squawkabilly, Luminion V, not quite Rotom V. You're a 10 away, but you could definitely get that 10 extra.
Yep.
And I feel like there's some others. There might not be, but obviously Luminion V and Squawkabilly EX especially see a lot of play, and so you can definitely probably snag 2 relatively easy prizes somewhere down the road.
Right, and they're grass weak, so you're one-shotting Roaring Moon, you're one-shotting Charizard EX probably, which are good things too. And
Yeah, that's really good.
so the risk, like I said, Charizard may need to start to toss in 1 or 2 fire attackers if Torterra becomes prominent. I don't know how well this deck will be. It's people are going to try it out for sure. I think there's a number of people that want it to work. It's all retreat cost is 4 too. That's certainly a bad thing. Although
Yeah, there's a card that works for that.
the new tool
Is
card.
that on your list?
It's not, no.
It's not on my. It lets you like conserve energy, which is not
Yeah.
so useful here because it's only one energy.
Right.
But the main attack's one energy. The attack that actually does more damage is one energy. Um,
Yes.
Most likely. But then there was the single prize Torterra, which actually attacks for 2, and so you can kind of use it with
Hmm.
that tool. I guess it's not that good, especially in this. But yeah.
Right. Although you might put that Torterra in the deck as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you have options for grass. It's so it can be Torterra is good in of itself, and then it makes a grass box deck. So definitely something that's going to see a number of people trying it out. We'll find out whether it's strong or not.
Yeah.
You don't believe in it.
I mean, I want to believe in it. I don't believe in it. No, I don't think it's terrible. I think it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. Hopefully better than that, but it's at least
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, usually when something's okay though, people don't play it, and then yeah,
That's true. That's true. So it's yeah, we'll see. But tanky Pokemon people like it, so we'll see what happens with it, right? All right.
yeah.
So
So what was that? That was your
that was
6,
number 7 for me.
7. Oh yeah, okay. So my number 7 is Miraidon.
Okay, which did
Yeah,
not make my list, um,
yeah.
for a
It's one of the
reason.
future Pokemon for a reason.
Y- Yes. So
That's good. And,
this is
that you're.
Miraidon, not the EX.
Yeah, this is the single prizer. It's Dragon type.
Okay.
It does have an attack. The second attack, 160 for lightning fighting. Sorry, lightning psychic.
Right.
And it has no weakness as it's a dragon to retreat. But accelerating peak, your first attack here for 1 colorless, it does 40. And search the deck for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to your future Pokemon in any way you like and shuffle your deck. Um, yeah, we'll talk about this more later.
Okay. See, so this is one of those cards that if you put together a package, which I think other people have, of Miraidon plus like a couple of the Pokemon, it's good, or at least maybe good. In fact, this is in, I believe, in the Battle Pass, the premium Battle Pass. I believe it's a future box, which this is a key part of that. So making that work. So I just look. I think doing 40, a little poke for 40 and accelerating 2 energies, 2 basics isn't bad. Now, you're going to probably get one shot after that, so you then need to, I think, be powering up multi-prize Pokemon. So because you're not, the 40 damage probably isn't very meaningful at the end of the day. So if I'm putting my opponent onto an odd prize map where everything else is 2 prizers, I don't mind it. If my other Pokemon are single prizes, which I think they might be, then I don't
Wait,
like,
what?
if my other attackers are single prize, right? My opponent's going to knock out the Miraidon. I'm going to hit him for 40. They're going to laugh at that, right? And then knock me right out the following
Yeah,
turn.
wait, but what are your other attack? I think they're all multi-prizers.
Are they? Well, that's the question. Okay,
I
as
mean, I
long as
think
they're
they're mostly.
multi-prizers,
What are you thinking of that's a single
maybe
prizer?
maybe they're not. Maybe they're all multi-prizers. So it's
I think all
important.
the ones I can think of are all EXs.
Okay, so then that's fine then. If they're all EXs, then it's fine. You're not wasting the attack, so to speak, is not a problem because you're you're not speeding up the game for your opponent's win. I think the attack is not very good on it. Of course, the second attack for damage, because
Oh, yeah, it's
you're
not
not
terrible.
you're just not powering it up, probably.
Yeah, I mean, if you power it up, it's okay. Um, yeah, I don't think it's bad. There are situations when you can use it. Do you have the future A spec on your list?
I do not know.
Okay, so that one is nice to accelerate some more energy. So with
What's it called again?
reboot pod here.
Okay.
I think that's wrong, but yeah, and then Miraidon, and so they both accelerate energies, so you can ideally get a bunch of energy in play
Right.
to kind of sustain you throughout the game. It's kind of sketchy, the future box deck. It does
Yeah.
struggle with energy, but it definitely Miraidon's very important, and I think kind of defines that deck and is very important and is good in the context of the deck. I don't think it's like broken, and on its own, it's pretty underwhelming. But I think it deserves a spot here.
Okay. And I assume we're looking to hear another future Pokemon down the road, which I'm guessing I know what it is. Um, yeah, look. I'm glad they're giving us the future box on the battle pass because I do want to try it out for sure. I just think it's gonna the energy demands are just too high, even with things like Miraidon and Reboot Pod to probably make it work. But it'll be fun
Yeah,
to
pretty
check
much.
it out.
Yeah, pretty much all the attackers are 3 energy. There are some that are 2 energy, um, which are okay, and I think people might start to lean into those if the 3 energy ones aren't working out too well.
Hmm.
But yeah, and anyway, only time will tell.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a very reasonable choice. I just don't like obviously it needs pieces to make it potentially viable, so it didn't make my list. But that was your number 7, was it?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll toss out my number 6. And did you say this one already? And this is Raging Bolt EX.
I did not know this one. This one is not on my
It's
list.
not on your list at all?
It's not on my list.
That one
I don't
I
think
am
it's that good.
shocked by. Okay, this is on the basic battle pass, so you'll try it out at least, I imagine, because you're going to have it.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the like 10 decks that you can play in standard legal when rotation happens, right? There's 8 starter
Yeah.
decks
Oh, so, yeah.
plus.
What are the starter decks? Do you know when we'll find that
No,
out?
I don't know when we'll find out. So they haven't announced it yet. At least as of the time of recording. I don't know if they'll announce it beforehand or not. I would think they will, but I don't remember now if they have in the past or not. So that
Yeah,
it'll
I don't
be
know.
interesting to see what they give us, and what new cards they give us, because that'll be important to pay attention to, as well as just what they're giving new players in general.
Yeah. Anyway, so you want to explain what it does?
And see Raging Bolt, but generally the Battle Pass decks are better than the starter decks. So in the basic Battle Pass, it's better than the premium Battle Pass. So Raging Bolt for new players, this is the best deck they're going to have access to initially, for good or for bad. And it sounds like you're saying for bad. It's a nice tanky basic Pokemon, 240 HP, so that's a very nice number on a basic EX, I would say. It's got the first attack, which is good on ability on the Dene GX, Bursting Roar. You discard your hand, draw 6, but for an attack for one colorless, I don't really want to use it for my attack, I will say. But
You probably will term on going second, though, sometimes.
yeah. But then it is an ancient, right? It's 2 energy attack. We can use Sawdust to power it up. Right? Professor Sawdust Vitality is any energy type, right? I always think of it as
Yeah,
Red
yeah.
Moon, but it's any energy. So Climactic to set 2 energies, so not terrible. It's lightning fighting, and then you discard any amount of basic energy from your Pokemon. It does 70 damage per energy you discard that way. So up to 280 damage on a 240 HP Pokemon. 280 is obviously a really nice number to hit. So
Or more, but you can one shot anything.
oh, that's right, 70 times, well, times 4, right? Oh no, it's not limited to 4. It's as
Yeah,
much
it's
as you
not
want.
limited. You can do as much. So you can do 5, which will one shot most things.
Right. So you have the potential to one shot everything. 70 is a very nice multiplier. It wouldn't have been 80. I think it could have made it 60. So I think 70 is a nice number to have here. So we'll see what happens. We lose Flaffy, right? That's rotating, which obviously, well, no, that doesn't probably help anyway. It's not. You have lightning energy, but you're not lightning Pokemon probably.
Well, Flaffy can accelerate to any type.
Oh, that's right. You can't use Electric Generator, which sticks around because it's not lightning. But you need to get energies in play. So that's the tricky part with it. I will grant you that. But it's nice and tanky, 240 HP. We obviously have tools to boost the HP by 50 or even 100 if you want to. I don't know if we'll get to that card or not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's not on my list. So, but there's an A spec that boosts to 100. You probably don't. But you have the ancient booster capsule, whatever the long name is for it.
Ancient Booster Energy Capsule.
Exactly. And that gives, what's that, 60 HP?
Yeah.
So it gets it up to 300 HP, and that is very nice on a basic Pokemon. So it's nice and tanky. It's just getting the energy in play. That's the challenge. But big damage, tanky Pokemon makes it very appealing.
Yeah, so I think you've said this before. So some of you may know a few cards. There's a card called Rayquaza VMAX that's in standard, and there's a card called
Yeah.
Reshiram and Zekrom that came out a decent amount of years ago. By now, it was expected to be the best card. Honestly, one of the best cards ever. It didn't quite live up to the other Dragon Pokemon in that set, ADP. Um,
Yeah.
it was a bit worse. But yeah, so there's seen cards like this. Notably, we do have Chimpao, right? So Chimpao is kind of similar. It's the same attack, less
Hmm.
damage, but still very good.
Yeah.
And that has that 60 multiplier, but it has a stage 2, and it's only one type, and it searches for energy. It's better in many ways than this. Um, and then, like, I don't know, I've seen lists. I've looked at lists in Japan. So if you don't know, Japan has these cards.
Yep.
I think they have all these cards. There might be a few they don't, but pretty much they have all these cards. And
Yep.
this is being played in lots of weird ways, including with like Gardevoir EX, because that like gets the energy
Right.
on. But
Hmm.
like it's all kind of wacky because you need Professor Saw's Vitality and you need all these pieces. And you're hitting obviously big damage, but I don't know. I think it's kind of I think it's gonna be a bit of a flop based on
Yeah.
what I've seen in other cards. It kind of looks like that.
Okay. I mean, look, you've got how to get the energy on is tricky, and you're going to see all sorts of shenanigans, right? You're going to have Baxcalibur because you got you got maybe right. I mean, that's something to try out. You have the metal acceleration. You're going to have to.
You have swim freely. Wait, is that I don't think that's rotating. I think you could do that.
Okay, so
Um,
yeah, getting the energy in play is the problem. Okay, I agree, and that's a significant problem. But
which is the card. Like,
no, I get it. It's look the other attacker, which was the one that was you discard energies from hand that I mentioned before. Whatever that one was that a Wug Trio, right? That's much
oh
better
yeah,
energy from hand than this. That's the
yes.
energy from play is tough, right? We know, but Chen Pao can get by with it, right? And this is definitely a
Well,
lot.
because it stretches out its own energy and can accelerate as much as it wants.
I know,
So
but this is much tankier. We're going to
it's
attach
not
the
that much
tool.
tankier.
With the tool, it's 300 HP.
But you could stick on a tool to Chien-Pao and it's at 270.
Yeah,
So
and I don't have
which is less.
weakness. Don't forget.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Look,
But like,
I think this is one of in Pokemon's mind the premier cards from this set. I think.
I agree. I
Okay,
don't actually think it's
so you
that
see,
good.
it might be a flop. I'm glad they gave it on the basic battle pass because this is a must try to me. Big, basic, pretty tanky, and potentially huge damage. That's all very appealing. It's got its downside. Can we make it work? We'll find out. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater.
I think this is better than your Miraidon, but Miraidon's
You
fine
do.
as long as I include like 3 or 4 of the cards with Miraidon. Miraidon's better, but on
Well,
its
yeah,
own,
but that's the same thing with Raging Bolt as well. You need the Sandy Shocks. You need Sada's Vitality, and then you're just hitting like 210 or maybe yeah, you're hitting probably 210 or I
uh,
guess 280. But like it's a lot of it's kind of awkward.
but also don't forget we said at the beginning. You said it. It's an awkward list to rank things because I think this
Yeah, I
is
don't think this is a terrible card. I wouldn't say it's crazy to put it on a top 10, but I don't think it's. I also don't think it'll be good. I think it's gonna flop. It looks like all the other cards that flop.
it might. It's a basic, which certainly like Rayquaza VMAX was not a basic, so that's a plus for it for sure. But we'll see. Yeah. I mean, getting the energy in play is tricky, right? And we do have a gutsy pickaxe is still in format, right?
I think that does that accelerate to any type. I guess it might.
I
So
think
you could
so.
use that.
Or
Um,
and finally we have the Koraidon that accelerates energy and ends your turn, right? From this card pile.
yeah, I mean
So
that's not new. There's also Garganacl, which is a fighting stage 2. You're talking about how all these like stage twos are
and
good.
that's your boy Garganackle, right?
I know Minecraft Donkey Kong, funny
Yeah.
guy,
Well,
kind of bad.
and
Um,
Koraidon's been garbage up to this point, but finally we can
I don't
try
know. I mean, it was
Koraidon.
pretty decent with Ting Lu. It
Yeah, for a very brief period of time, right? Tinglu.
wasn't that brief. It was like, oh, it was a set.
Yeah, so it was one set, and then EXs kind of took over, and Tinglu's ability lock kind of lost value, right?
Yeah, I guess. But like, I mean,
Anyway,
you could still play it. And anyway, so, yeah, this card's fine.
okay. So what do you have?
Was that your number
It's number
6?
6. Yeah, you haven't done
This-
that yet, have you?
Yeah, so I got this might be higher on your list. I don't think it will be though. It's Iron Leaves EX.
No, that one's not on my list. So these lists
That's
are
not on
very
your list.
different. Which
They are very different. I think this card's very good. Well, actually, I don't think it's that good, but I think
wait, what's the type on
when
that one again?
it's grass.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
thinking.
it's a future
Oh, there it
card, so
is.
it does work with some of the future stuff. So its ability Rapid Vernier when starting your turn when you play this.
Hmm.
From your hand onto your bench, you may switch this with your active and then move any amount of energy from your bench to this Pokemon, which includes
Yeah.
the Pokemon that was just in the active. And then Prismatic Edge, 180 for Grass colorless. During your next turn, this can attack. But the idea, one, it's obviously counter to Charizard. And that's
Hmm.
the main thing because Giratina V-Star is really good, right?
Yeah.
But it's not grass, but it has grass energy. So this is an insane, like just a perfect tech in any Giratina deck, either Arceus um, or Lost Zone or something else, I guess. And
And
then also
goes in Torterra, right?
you could put it in Torterra. I don't know if you probably wouldn't put it in Torterra, but you could. And then also it is future, so there's some future stuff we'll talk about, including the Miraidon, which lets you set it up, and you can buff its damage some, so you can buff it actually to the 220 damage output with Iron Valiant EX and then Future Boost Energy Capsule and potentially something else.
Okay, so
No spoilers, but yeah, it's hitting that 220 mark is pretty good.
all right,
I
so
mean, it's very good.
okay, so you mentioned before I mentioned talk about this card. You mentioned Iron Valiant EX, so that's not on your list. Is that correct then? Since you mentioned
What?
you said Iron Valiant, right? The one
Which
that.
pings? Which
Oh, I'm
pings?
sorry, not the one. Okay, I'm getting confused.
No, not that other one.
Okay, which is the best one of the future? Okay, look
I
here's the
think, yeah.
probably that's the one that makes the future box work, assuming it
Yeah.
works.
But I
Which
think Iron Leaves is outside of is also going to see a lot of play outside of Future Box.
yeah, the fact that you can move the energy to it makes it. Is it any energy at all? So it can be special energy as well. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So it has a lot of different use cases, or I mean, some different use cases.
Here's the downside to it, which is why I
You
didn't
can use
make
it
my.
with like Thornton or something. I haven't thought that far, but
Yeah, but then it doesn't switch. You're not playing it from your hand to your bench. You can't switch
so
it
you
then.
play, you play Iron Leaves and then Thornton Iron Leaves into something else.
Okay, you play it on your bench. You switch it to the active to get the energy on it, and then you Thornton after that.
Yeah. Oh, you could use it with your Raging Bolt or whatever. Because you can Sandy Shocks and then play down Iron Leaves.
hmm
And then now you don't need to Sadas anymore. You just need to Thornton.
So this would have been the perfect card to make my Blissey deck work. I get it on the bench, swing it to the active. I get all the damage off energy from my Blissey V that's finally got like 20, 15 energies on it. And then I have to share and carry it away, and I cry, but instead I move the energy. So
Yeah.
the problem is 180 damage isn't really enough. That's the thing I don't like. 180.
But it's more than that, right?
If you're playing the booster, but I don't. But if it's not a future box, then you're not playing that card, right?
Oh,
Then you're
yeah, that's
just doing
true. But
180
well, yeah, no. If you're playing it in another deck, it's probably just a Charizard counter. But if you are playing it
future
in
box
yeah in
with
future, then
boosting it.
obviously you do have those buffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of those buffs you can get down, right? You need to get two of them down to get it to 220, which is probably where you want to get to be. But you need other cards to make the deck work. How many bench slots do you have? I haven't done the math on that to know what
Yeah,
you can
it's
pull off
you need
yet.
two. You need okay.
Well, we'll
It's
save the
yeah.
other
I mean,
card. I just on its own, I don't think it's that good. As a tech card, it's fine.
as a tech card, it's pretty good. Obviously, if
If
it was only one grass, it would be much better. But
well, that's right because
it's
you
still
need.
really good against. Or it's pretty good. They will knock it out in return, but it's often really hard for decks to deal with multiple Charizards.
Wait, what? Oh, to not one shot a Charizard. You're saying,
Yeah.
but you need to have grass energy in your deck already, right? So
Yeah,
what,
but they're like it's not attacking every deck, but it's attacking some, and I think it's
like
the
Lost Zone, because most decks that play
Lost Zone in
grass,
Arceus.
most decks that play grass energy have grass attackers already. Is what I would say.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which
But
then don't play this probably.
yeah,
So it's okay, is what I'll say, and I get
I
it.
think Giratina is really good. Like Giratina is it's a substantial portion of decks that this actually does matter.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Lost Tina probably. I guess you're
And
making an
Arceus.
argument for Arceus too. Well,
Yeah, I think it's
okay, because Arceus you accelerate to some other Pokemon, and then yeah, when Iron Leaf swings to the active, you move the energy onto it. You've got to get it into hand though too. So Nest Ball doesn't work with it. So all you have is your 4 Ultra Balls to get it
okay.
primarily.
Well, if you are playing Future Box, you do have
Oh,
Techno Raider as well.
oh, that's true. And even if you play a Lost Zone or Arceus, and I play this, I guess I might put that in because. But not working with nest balls is a problem too, since it's a nest ball, not quick ball format.
Yeah, it's a bit of a downside. It's not perfect, but I think
Okay.
it's pretty good. I mean, had it at 6. It's not that high.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, it's fine. It's going to see play. So it's okay. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Next up, number 5, I have another future card.
Okay.
It's Cipher Maniac's Code Breaking. I think
Okay.
is the
Which was an
translation,
honorable
which you
mention
had
for
on
me.
your yeah, which I think is the correct name. It's very long.
That Cipher
Yeah.
Maniac's Code Breaking is the official name, I believe, because it is in the Battle Pass, which so I assume
Okay.
what Pokemon's article said on Battle Pass was correct. It says Cryptomaniac's deciphering here and Justin Basil, which is not correct. Obviously similar, but they didn't translate it the same as Pokemon did.
Yeah. And so if you're familiar with Mallow, this is the same as Mallow, except as future, but that doesn't matter too much. But it says search your deck for any 2 cards, then you shuffle your deck, but not with those 2 cards. I guess you set them aside, and then you put them back on top in any order. The main goal, obviously, you get to get any 2 cards, but they're not in your hand. But there are a few ways. One, in Curlia/Gallade engine,
Yep.
Curlia draws 2 cards. Gallade searches for a supporter. So now if you have both of those, you just can get any 2 cards. You need to discard a card from your hand, but that's not a big deal. So with that combo, you literally search for any 2 cards, which is obviously really good.
Right.
But aside from that, there is also there are a few ways to draw cards, but there's Babarrel and there's Radiant Greninja.
Yep.
And Radiant Greninja just draws 2 cards, which is very common, and Babarrel draws some cards. There's also Squovit, but I probably wouldn't do that. But I mean, you could. There are certainly cases in which it would be the right play.
Yeah.
Probably to get up a barrel and then to put barrel into that other card. But yeah, I think this card's really good in certain decks and certain scenarios, which aren't like rare or anything. And so I think it's really good value. You see cards like Arven and Irida which are really good right now because they're search for kind of whatever you want. And this is in a similar vein.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a really interesting card. You didn't mention the Xatu engine, which this makes that better.
Oh, I forgot that.
Right. Zatu's always tricky with the energy, but now you're getting the exact 2 cards you want potentially. So that's it, plus accelerating energy. Obviously you have to have the energy to make it work, but that would be very nice as well. And another card which we'll be getting to that works with this as well. I think. I think it's really interesting. I have
Iron Thorns.
I have a card. I have. I'm getting to the
Oh,
top 5
card.
with the good cards are coming up still. So
The good cards, yeah. Oh
look,
wait, oh no. I guess there are a few different cards you could work with.
so
Yeah.
but look, I think it's really interesting and I'm gonna look forward to trying it in a lot of different ways. I gotta say, I'm just not sure how good it's gonna be because usually when you do this, you're gonna play a support, then you have to do something else to get 2 cards in hand, and that those 2 cards can't be a supporter though, which is really probably what you want. So you made at least 2 steps to make this happen, which doesn't include a supporter. That's the downside to it, right? Is it going to be good enough?
Yeah, I know, and there are some risks to it. The one thing you want to use a supporter for, one is draw. This is kind of related to that, but then the other is gusting. There are some cards to gust that are items, including Counter Catcher, which is very good and very common, and potentially something else. So
Yes, you're correct. I agree. I think it's super interesting. I'm not sure how good it's going to be, and I think I think that's not a crazy concern I have.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty straight with the Radiant Greninja, which is obviously played a lot. I mean, it's the most common Radiant. I think it's
Yeah, I mean, if Snorlax becomes big though, I don't want to play a Radiant Greninja I can't attack with. Right.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
so I'm just look. I get it. It's a good card. I'm just not sure. You got to build a deck to take advantage of it, which means not doing other things. And this is your
you like the barrel, and you like NTV, right? You could put this in Goldango. There are lots of combos.
Yeah, I mean, would I rather just play a different supporter though? I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see. It's good. I think it's more interesting than good. That's my prediction. I don't think it'll have some value, but I'm not sure how good it will be.
Okay. So what's your number 5?
So number 5 is the card that makes this work, and that's the Dunsparce.
Yeah.
Which isn't on your list at all, is it?
No.
So,
I was considering putting it there, but I mean, it's not that good. It's kind of bad.
You're so wrong. And this one also attacks for 3 energy, does 90 on a stage 1. And the one card was good with the attack. This one you're going to say the attack's bad for some reason, but that's beside the point. So
which card was good with the attack? Oh, well, on a basic, and it actually does more.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Anyway, so the Dunsparce, you're not attacking with it, but once during your turn, dashing draw ability, I don't know if that's correct. Once during your turn, you may draw 3 cards. That is always awesome. If you do, shuffle this Pokemon and all attached cards into your deck. So what's really nice with this, first drawing 3 cards is good. We have things you discard, draw 2, but drawing 3 is much less common. And you can play this. It's not an on-play ability, so I can get the Dunsparce into play, right? And also the basic, the Dunsparce is, I think it's 60 HP. It's 70 or less, so I can there's a card that will get 70 HP or less Pokemon into hand, so I can set it up the following turn. I can get it on the bench. I don't have to use it, so I can leave it there till I need to draw, and that is very nice. And I can use multiple ones in a turn. If I get them set up, I can go, okay, I don't need to use it this turn. Oh, next turn I need to use two of them, and they go back in deck, which is even in some ways better than Scoop Up Net with things like this, because they're back in the deck. You get it back again. Scoop Up Net's better; it's in hand, but I don't have to play. I don't need Scoop Up Net in my deck and taking that bench and taking that deck slot. So I think it's a very nice card.
Yeah. I mean, obviously drawing cards is always good. But there's something I need to say. This is I know we're running a little long, but
Yes.
I have a story. This isn't exactly a story, but it's kind of a story. So Uncommon Fossil and I have played a game called Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's a fun little game. It's if
Uh,
you play Pokemon, you might like Dominion. Um, it's very different, but it's yeah. Anyway, so and there's a card called Village. Um,
yeah.
and it lets you draw a card, and then you like can play more cards.
Yes.
Um, and then there's a strategy called the Village Idiot strategy.
Which is not a good
Uh,
strategy, but
no,
but
it's not a good
the name gives that
strategy.
away. Good.
Because you play a village and then you draw another village and you like play it again, but it doesn't actually
Mm-hmm.
get you anywhere. And so that's kind of like what the Dunsparce does. Um, because you play the Dunsparce, you like have the
Mm-hmm.
tune play, then you draw three and you send it back into your deck, and then you play down two more to Dunsparces, and then you like draw a bunch of the Dunsparces and Dunsparce. So you need two cards, then you draw three. So it's essentially kind of
Mm-hmm.
like net one, which isn't very good because you're
Well,
also like you're gonna hit parts of it, and so you're like, oh, I got the stage one without the basic, or I got the basic without the stage one, and so yes, it can be good for like burst draw at certain
mm-hmm.
points, but it's not a consistent draw engine. Or if it is, then all the cards you're drawing are just the Dunsparces and Dunsparces. So yeah,
I think the value first, you're not drawing back the Dunsparces most of the time, right?
which
Or
is
the
which
basic.
means that you don't have them then.
Yeah, no. Look, if this card's going to work, the value is going to be you get one or two set up on the bench, and you leave them there for a couple turns, and you grab cards when you need them. So you need to have some bench. Obviously, you need some deck space for it, but you always need deck space for an engine anyway. And then you also need some bench space to leave them there. At 140
Yeah.
HP, that's not a bad number though. So you're not getting one shot on the bench. Pretty much. So that makes it kind of viable, right? Because I don't know if you can put like two to Dunsparce and bench protection like a Manaphy as well. Probably not. Um, but so
Yeah, I
with
guess. But yeah.
play this. Hey, I think Arceus is going to be a good post rotation. At least pretty good. And obviously
A
something like
Pidgeot.
or Pidgeot as well, right? So you get the
Well, no, I
Dunsparce.
thought Arceus with Pidgeot.
I think so, yeah. But the Arceus gets you the Pidgeot, but then you start getting some of the Dunsparces down. So besides getting the one turn, you grab a bunch of cards. I think I think it's an interesting engine is what I'll say.
I guess. I mean, I obviously don't think it's that good. I don't think it's
No.
terrible. I think it has certain use cases. The idea like, oh, you save it till late game, and your opponent Ionos you or Roxanne's you, and then you have very few cards in your hand. And you can be like, okay, but I get 6 or 3 more cards this hand. I can hopefully get what I need. Then it can be useful there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not doing a lot. It provides some value in some turns. But I'd much rather have like a Curly in play or like a Babero probably, or something like that than the Dunsparce.
Yeah, I mean, but Barrel Skwovet is probably a better engine. Although, if you played your supporter to get your two cards on top of your deck, now I get those two plus a bonus card. So you should be happy with that.
But Squova Babero would also do that.
That is true. That is true. So, we'll see. Is it going to be a bad engine? Maybe. I think it's a very interesting card. See that interest is gets high marks for me, and I think this falls under that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got another interesting card coming in at number 4. I have Great Tusk, the mill one. So pretty much
Hmm.
what it says for 2 colorless. It's not actually interesting. It's kind of boring. Um,
Yeah.
but if you played an ancient supporter from your hand during your turn, you can discard 4 from the top of your opponent's deck for 2 colorless.
Yep.
The one ancient supporter helps power this up. The one's like a draw supporter. They're honestly incredibly boring. The deck's incredibly boring. I've watched it. It's really boring, but it's pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's probably one of the best. It's probably the best milk card I've ever seen. I really the first milk card I've experienced was Durant from Noble Victories, the old
Hmm.
Durant, the first Durant. I believe the first Durant, and That was good, but I think this is definitely better. I think this is probably one of the best mill cards I've ever seen. I don't think it's absurdly broken, but I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, you should be able to get mill four pretty consistently. That's the challenge, right? Can you mill four? Now, Wug Trail's still better, but if you
Well,
if you stream it, it's harder to pull off. But it's
well,
going
it's
to
barely better. It's better
that
by a
averages
half a
four and a
card.
half. Well, half a card's better because you're still milling like 5 or 6 turns to win the game. That's always the problem with these mill decks too, right? You
Yeah, I
need
don't
to.
know if Great Tusk will be quite good enough, especially if like people know how to play against it. But I don't know. I mean, Wug Trio is definitely hard to set up than Great Tusk by a lot.
No, I definitely agree about that. I definitely do. Um, we're good in installs good or controls going to be a thing in general. So people are going to have play arounds to decks, including Great Tusk, right? If you're playing around Snorlax, you probably are getting out of playing around Great Tusk too, just because partly you want to get something stuck in the active for a few turns, generally with a mill deck, because you just need the time. But it's a good card. I had it at 8. You have it at 4. You know, I like mill, so we'll see what it does.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your number for now?
Number 4, and I'm ready for you to hate. This is a really good card though, and it's Sableye.
Oh no,
So it's not on your
no,
list at all, right?
no, that card's garbage. It's
This
not
is
garbage,
this
but
is
it's
a
pretty
great
bad.
tech in a lot of decks, and I'm always looking for
Name
box decks.
one.
It's going in my Arceus Pidgeot Mawile deck. I'm tossing the Sableye because you need alternates in deck, and Sableye, 2 colorless energy. If you play DTE, you toss in a Sableye in any deck, I think, just about. Again, I wish it was Raihan, but we live without that. But DTE, 2 colorless energies, damage collector, move any number of damage counters from your opponent's bench Pokemon to their active Pokemon. So there's a lot of decks, not the top decks that win the events because they're avoiding this, but a lot of other second tier decks that you're doing damage but not quite getting the knockouts, and then your opponent's retreating away. Here now you have the option of boom, finishing off, just wiping out an active Pokemon. So it reduces your opponent's ability to get away from hiding those damaged Pokemon. On a single
I
prize, 70 HP. Go on.
well, okay, I have a question. Is Shaman on your list?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. So Shaman, I'd say, is about as good as this. Um, which it's a Pokemon. It's not that good. So Sableye, I don't think is absolute garbage, but
Wow, high praise.
yeah, I think it's bad. I mean, so we did see there was a Tapu Lele, or actually 2 Tapu Leles that were like the same, but different types that had this attack, but it was move any damage counters anywhere. And it was actually, I was gonna say it was really good in PTGO, but it was kind of bad because the animation would take so long that you'd always time out. Or not always time out, but you'd usually time out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and anyways, so this can be useful, obviously, because it can move damage. I think there are cases when it's good, but I
I,
mean, it doesn't do any damage, and it's just gonna die,
It
like
is,
definitely.
but if
Oh,
you're in a spot you have that Charizard EX or something like that you just can't one shot. We've been there before. It has a lot of damage on it. They bring up it gives us the chance to blow up something big, right? You're taking out a multi prizer for a single prizer. You have to have the 2 energy though, so probably you got to have if you have DTE depending on the deck. I think this is a nice include. It's a nice little
this
flex.
means you've attacked into 2 different Charizards, right?
You might have, you might have.
Well, because otherwise you won't have enough damage to KO the one Charizard.
Yeah, or they're sending. Yeah, look, you're
So that
playing.
means you've attacked 3 times for 1 KO.
Oh, you're so negative. So I'm
I
playing
mean, it
my
doesn't seem.
I'm playing my Arceus deck. I've Sharon's cared. I've attacked. I've Sharon cared like 3 or 4 times now. I got damage all over the board. You know, or you have your little single price spread deck. You like that a lot. Right now, you just spread damage and you can wipe out whatever gets in the active. I think it gives some
Yeah, no, I think there are
flexibility.
uses for this. I don't think it's a terrible like card, but I think it's bad.
I think
I
it's one.
I, I don't think it's
It's
yeah.
one to keep in mind. The powering up's the problem, right? To me, if it was a single
Oh,
energy,
with damage or with energy. I don't think energy is a problem. It's too colorless.
well, you don't want to attach twice on your turn, though, right?
Oh yeah,
You don't
but I
want to
mean you
have to
can double
power it up
turbo.
in
There are
two
lots of
turns.
ways to power this up.
Yeah. So I think it's a nice tech option in decks that find themselves short, and there's a lot of decks that can find themselves short these days.
But I don't think it's good enough.
Maybe. All right. Well, we'll go on. Tell me what is good enough then.
Okay, so I got number 3. I have Prime Catcher.
Okay, which I have slightly
Is that you?
higher. I have higher,
Okay,
so yeah.
so you will save it for now, or what's your number 3?
My number 3 is
Oh wait, we might have the same top 3 actually, but
so mine is the Lugia buff at number
oh
3.
no, yeah, we don't have the same top 3.
So right,
Is that
because
Chinchino?
Chinchino, which won the big Japanese event, right? Basically, this
It
card
did. Well,
single-handedly won. Like I know they talk about the international events being the biggest ever, but this is much bigger, right? I
yeah, no,
believe,
this
right?
was a big tournament. It was like probably top 10, at least top 10 in terms of like Limitless, which doesn't have all the events, but it has some.
Right. So
Yeah, I mean, it was a big
Chinchino,
event.
stage 1, special roll attack does 70 damage for each special energy attached to this Pokemon. So you want to play it with Archeops, right? Which means you're playing it with Lugia. So this is for a single prize. It's a stage 1, but stage 1s aren't that tough to get into play. Single prize are doing huge damage. So I don't know how you can't love it, right?
Well, yeah, okay, as long as you get like a V star, 2 stage 2s and a stage 1 that you can stream every turn, it's good.
it's
Um,
it's a little, yeah, you have that.
eh,
You've
so
got
it's
to
a lot of setup. I think it's okay. I mean, it was certainly close. I'm not a massive fan of Lugia, and it's also like not drastically better than all the other attackers. It does give you a one-shotting option, which is really nice. Um,
right, which
keep in mind, double turbo will not increase the amount of damage you're doing. It will just decrease it, because it's one card.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. I don't think it's that good. I know some people think it's really good. I'm not a major fan, but I don't think it's bad either.
I mean, I think this is one that's good right now. I don't know how good it is long term because obviously you got to get the special engine in play. But Lugia is good, and this makes Lugia needs this. I think to be viable. Is what I'd say. And I think it just won a big event. I think it's gonna do thing. It's gonna be big for a little bit. I think this card.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's top 10, obviously, because it's not there. But for me, but
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
Okay. So you said and you didn't. You said Prime Catcher was your third, which for me is number 2. So why don't you tell us about Prime Catcher?
Yeah, so Prime Catcher is pretty good. It's a ace spec. It's the best ace spec, pretty much. I think most people agree on that, and I think we do. I mean, I don't know what your number 1 is, right? But
Yeah, it's not an A spec.
no. The other good ace spec is Maximum Belt, but neither of us have that on the top 10. It's on many people's top 10, but I think it's good, but not that good. Prime
Yeah.
Catcher,
Hmm.
item, switch in one of your opponent's bench to the active, and then you switch. If you can, you can play this only if you can gust your opponent. So you can't play this as a switch if your opponent doesn't have any bench, but that's fine.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. And assuming
Yeah.
this translation is right. But anyway, so it's an item gust. We have counter catcher, which to me diminishes this card's value actually a
Hmm.
lot. If we didn't, this would be like absurdly broken in my opinion. But we do
Right.
have counter catcher. But obviously this is good if I mean it's good in like pretty much any scenario. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very good. It's obviously one of the tricky things with making a list like this is the A specs. You can only have one in your deck. How do you? It certainly first it's not 4 of these in a deck, and you can't play another A spec, so that hurts it for sure. Obviously, if you could have 4 of these, it's a whole different situation and play other A specs. I think Master Ball is still pretty solid too. And we'll see some play. There's a few different A specs that'll see play, but it varies by deck lot. This is the most universal. Um, once per turn, you gust up your opponent's bench Pokemon. You just have to
Once
be
per game.
once per. I'm sorry, yeah, once per game. You have to know on the turn you're going to use it that you don't promote the Pokemon you're attacking with. Otherwise, you have a problem. And if you draw into
Yeah,
it,
I
and all of a
guess.
sudden,
But, I mean, a lot of decks have pivots.
if
I
you
mean,
do have a pivot,
you really like Pidgeot. The Dunsparce. You didn't say this. There's a Dunsparce. I don't know if it's the new one or not the new
mhm,
one. Is there the new? Yeah, it is the new one. It has free retreat. So there are a lot of Pokemon with free retreat. Or, I mean, the Dunsparce essentially you can just send it back into your deck, so it kind of is a pivot as well. So there are a lot of pivots.
right. I mean, if you need Prime Catcher but aren't guaranteed to get it, you may hopefully have a pivot because otherwise you don't want to find yourself not being able to attack either way, right? Because you draw into Prime
Yeah, but
Catcher.
that's
Yeah,
not like super
no, but you just
common that
have to
you'd be
keep
like,
that into mind. It's not a problem. It's just you just have to be aware of it. It's a very strong card, obviously. I think the most universal of the A specs. So I think you had it 3, right? I have it 2. Very similar place for both of us.
yeah. So number 2, I have Buddy Poffin.
Okay,
Is
and
that on your list?
that is on my list. So it would be number one on my list. So why don't we talk
Yes.
about that now before we see what nonsense you're putting at number one? So
Yeah. So what do you have to say about this guy?
so Buddy Buddy
You want to start
Poffin,
with him?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's the most meaningful card coming out in the set. You search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon 70 HP or less, put on your bench. So any especially for evolving EX decks, they mostly have the base.
Or
Well,
non-EX decks.
right, but the big ones like Charizard, Pidgeot, they're 70 HP or lower on the basic, right? So that's important. So it's very good, and it's better than Battle VAP Pass for decks that are 70 that can use it because you can use it after your first turn, which is really big, right? So for evolution decks, it gives a lot of consistency for evolution decks. So I think it's very big. A lot of decks are going to play. You just are just going to drop 4 copies in automatically, right? If you have multiple basics with 70 HP or less, you're probably 4 Buddy Poffins or Buddy Poffin actually is the name is like an automatic include.
Yeah, and also there was a Ditto, which because obviously this does not get Pokemon that have more than 70 HP.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a Ditto, it's a basic that is under this threshold, and it says that if it's in the active, then you can switch it with any Pokemon in your deck. You do lose the attached cards, which means you
Right.
lose a little bit of value, but you don't lose that much value, most likely. So this is obviously really good if you are running a deck that does not have Pokemon that are 70 HP or less,
Mm-hmm.
or that many. If you
It,
have like some.
Now that Ditto is only on turn one, right? You can do
Yes,
the
only on
switch.
turn one if it's in the active.
Right. So Buddy
So it's
Poffin,
certainly not as good as like just getting it, but it's still pretty good.
right. I mean, but you've got to have Buddy Poffin, and you have to have a switch card to get your Ditto into the active. So anyway.
But those decks are often like Turbo X, and they are generally run a lot of Switch anyway. I feel like it's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the Ditto, it can see a little additional play for other things that aren't 70 HP or less. So, but obviously Charizard's very good. Pidgeot EX is very good. That's like just makes that deck just a lot better. And of course, Path to the Peak is rotating, so that makes the Charizard Pidgeot deck pretty scary, I would say.
Yeah, it's a very good deck. Also, this helps Lost Zone some. I mean, Battle VIP passes. I'm not a big fan of Battle VIP pass. I think it's kind of not bad, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as some people say it is.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't think it's like a super major rotation. I think I mean, it's like it matters, but it's not the biggest deal. But yeah, I mean, it's good. My number one, Uncommon Fossil. Do you know what my number one is?
No, I do not. So I haven't been.
It's Iron Crown EX.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Which is very good. Look here. I'm going to just say why it's
It's
not
so
on my
good it wasn't
list.
on your list.
This is
Yeah.
why it's not on my list because in and of itself, it's no good. It's just it
I
relies
guess.
on like 4 or 5 other Pokemon to make it good, right? It's going at a future box deck, right? That's what it's.
Well, I'd say I mean, it makes the other Pokemon good, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying Curlia's bad because it doesn't attack, right?
Well, but well, this does attack. The attack's terrible, I think. So I think you need to try to defend the attack possibly. Look, things that boost damage by 20 haven't been traditionally overly strong. But anyway,
What do you mean by that?
make the case for the card
Wait,
then.
so no, sorry. What do you mean by that cards that like boost
Well,
damage on Curly?
Pokemon that give a little there have been other Pokemon that boost damage, right, to
Yeah,
specific
and they've been good.
Pokemon.
I mean, some. This is similar to the I think it's I was gonna say Thunderous EX, but that's wrong. Deoxys EX. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
It's kind of like we have seen the baby legendary bears, the Moltres, Articuno, Zapdos. Those have certainly seen some play. They're only 10, but they've seen play. And then there's
Yeah, limited. Yeah.
Regieleki. I mean, yeah, it's substantial, certainly somewhat meaningful. Not like a number one best card in the set, but actually they might be. They were in a mini set, but and then obviously Regieleki V Max is surviving rotation is going to be. I think it's going to be pretty decent post rotation.
Okay.
Not amazing, but pretty decent. Anyway, those aren't this card though. This card is Iron Crown EX. It's a 220 HP basic psychic Pokemon that is future, and this matters a lot. Well, I mean, it helps future Pokemon.
Right. I mean,
So
yeah, it's all about future.
its ability Cobalt Command or Cobalt Commander, I don't remember. this could be completely wrong, but your the name, but the effect your future Pokemon's attacks, except for Iron Crown EX, do 20 more damage to your opponent's active. So this is the damage buff I was talking about.
Yeah.
Notably looking at, we'll talk about some, but then you do 20 more, and then twin shot, I think is what the attack is. Psychic
Okay.
colorless. It does 50 to your opponent's Pokemon, and it is not affected by weakness, which is an ideal, or resistance, which doesn't matter as far as I am aware. Or at least on standard. But then it also hits through effects on Pokemon. So it will hit through Manaphy. It will hit through Mimikyu. Unfortunately, you can't really you can KO a Mimikyu if you have future boost energy capsule, but you can't KO a Mimikyu with another, like Iron Crown boosting you, because that's not how it works.
Right.
Um, this does hit through, as I said, Manaphy, which is a really big deal. You can't boost your bench damage, but you can ping with Iron Valiant EX, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have that option, and you can attack with it. I think it is an option in Lost Zone is pretty interesting. I'm a big fan of basic Lost Zone and with some more interesting techs, and I think it's pretty cool. But on top of that, we were talking about Miraidon. Miraidon hits 40, which obviously isn't really KOing much of anything. It KOs a few Pokemon, but only a few.
Right.
But if you're hitting, as you said, there are a lot of Pokemon with like 70 HP or less. So if you have 2 damage buffs through 2 Iron Crowns, which you literally
Mm-hmm.
just play 1 Techno Radar to get them,
Right.
then you're hitting 80. And so that's enough to one-shot lots of basic Pokemon, which is annoying to have to deal with. On top of that, you look at 160, which is the damage number that comes up in a few cases, or 220. If you buff those each by 60, they go to 220, which is a good number, or to 280, which is also a really good number. And then once you're hitting those damage outputs, then that's really nice, right? So you're amping these damage numbers up to much like better numbers. That is 60 more. So you need probably 2 Iron Valiants in a tool, or 3, or sorry, Iron Crowns in a tool,
Mm-hmm.
or 3 Iron Crowns, and that's definitely doable. It's not super easy, but doable. And I definitely think, I mean, I think it's really good, obviously.
Yeah. Look, it's good. It relies on a lot of other things. So it's kind of like saying Meloetta was really good, but unto itself, Meloetta
No, I think it's like
wasn't.
saying UV Max is really good,
I guess
or more
so.
accurately, Genesect V.
No, no. Well, it's not anywhere near that
I don't think
level.
it's quite as good.
With
I
the
think it's
Genesect engine
not,
is
and it's not as good,
tremendous.
but
I,
I think it's
so
I think
so
it's better
part
than
so
UV
part of
Max.
why look, I think if I take this card unto itself, because there is a whole package, future package that they're putting into the set, right, to kind of make this happen.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I said Iron Leaves EX also has 180, and
mhm.
then it will be boosted up to 220 with 2 boosts, which is pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't know how the decks get. I haven't looked at how these decks are getting built. I guess Japan. I'm sure they played some because you need a couple of these at least. You need some of their attackers, but you also want some engine pieces. So I don't know how it's actually going to function. That's one
Yeah, I think if
concern.
you're just playing as like a big future box, so there's a few ways. There's like the very simple future box, which is a little inconsistent, as are a lot of decks. But
Hmm.
then you can play it with just a bunch of Iron Hands, EX, and then you can just like knock stuff out and take like 2 prizes every turn. And you have like Miraidon, the baby Miraidon, and so you just like kind of one-shot stuff, or 2-shot stuff, or just like you take lots of prizes pretty much.
Hmm.
And that deck's pretty good, and it's dependent on Iron Crown as well as Miraidon.
Right. So you have multiple Miraidon attacks where you're not taking knockouts over the course of the game generally too.
Probably one,
Oh, okay.
and you could take a knockout.
You might, yeah, on a small Pokemon, yes, on a small Pokemon. So look, on its own, I don't think it's number one. I think it may be low end top 10. I think if you include like 3 or 4 other cards with it, it could be number one. But I didn't want to do that. I don't think the attack's very good. 3 energy to
I
do.
mean, the attack's not that good. It's
No,
okay,
I don't
but
think.
it's not there for the attack. It's there for the ability, which is really good.
Yeah, and the retreat cost is 2. I don't like that.
I mean, yeah, but there's the tool that gives it free retreat.
Yeah, no, the tools that and the tool also gives 20 more damage. So would I rather just play the tool in the featured box and kind of
Well, yeah, well,
reduce
you
the
play
Iron
both.
Crown?
You
Yeah,
play.
I get it. I look, I'm very glad they gave us this isn't in the free deck on the premium battle pass. I want to try it out. I I just am very suspect of whether this is actually going to work. I just don't think it's going to come together when you actually play it.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little awkward with just like a simple feature box, but I do think as like an option, adding this to stuff with Iron Leaves. I was saying Iron Leaves is really good. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people think that as well. I think Iron Crown, in addition, there is like really nice because you can have
Okay.
this really like easy to power up attacker
Well,
that hits
wait.
decent damage.
What's the energy level? What's Iron Leaves need for energy?
Grass, colorless.
Yeah. So you
So like
have
an Arceus.
so yeah. Except Arceus does huge. It does a bunch of damage and accelerates, and you only need to do 2 attachments. Here you need 3 attachments. You're relying probably on whatever that A spec is called, right, to make that hit work for you at some
Well, then you
point
play this with Arceus.
with
You
Arceus.
play, yeah, you play Iron Crown and some Iron, or no, Iron Leaves and Iron Crown with Arceus. I think you could do that. I don't know. I think this has a really good card.
Okay.
And then you have the tool, or no, not the tool. You do have the tool, but you have the item that you spec, and you have Miraidon, and you have lots of ways to get energy on.
Okay. I mean, that's going to be the challenge. I think is going to be getting the cards you energy onto the cards you want, right? Because it's going to be probably a box style deck, which is always appealing, but getting the right attacker at the right time, will it flow? Time. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
So
I'm hopeful. I think it'll be good. I think it might just be really good in Lost Zone also. You can have some like Lost Zone future box, and you just like you have Iron
okay.
Hands, so you like
All right, so okay, you said this before, Lost Zone Future Rock, but you need what? You need like a couple Iron Crowns, and you need your Lost Zone pieces, and you need some Lost Zone and some Future Attacker as well. Can you actually set this up in
well, I
actual
mean, you
gameplay?
just well, you have different options, right? So you have like if your opponent's mana feeing, right, that's something that's pretty common. You can be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just gonna like ignore that with Iron Crown plus an Iron Valiant, or something like that.
Hmm.
And then you can be, I don't know, there are different options. So you're not like putting all the things into play. But I mean, Lost Zone isn't like you have different options and you just go with different ones at different times.
It is, but this is an Iron Crown that's boosting another attacker, so it's taking more bench slots than just attacking with X, right? It's at least it's
Yeah,
taking at
I
least
mean,
one
I
other
feel like
slot
I
in
don't
play.
really have issues with bench space in Lost Zone.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean sometimes you do, but like not major issues. I feel like you don't play like lots of Pokemon that you don't need, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You just have to, yeah, you have to be careful. I was going to say don't overplay the comfies, which is one sense is true, but on the other hand, if they're not knocking you out, then you don't have a problem either. So then they're not taking prizes, so that's usually good for you. So look, I it's interesting. I'm not sold on it. That's my where I'm at, but it's going to get a lot of play, I'm sure, and we'll find out how good it is. It's going to get play IRL competitively, and it's on the ladder, so it's going to get a lot of casual play as well.
Yeah. I think a few of the cards is that all. I think that's all of the
Yeah.
top 10, right?
Yep.
A few of the cards I just want to mention real quick, and then you might have a few.
Hmm.
Um, there is there's a Feraligatr that's kind of cool, and a Relicanth that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Those kind of go together. I think they're really fun. Yeah, in terms of are the good cards, we didn't talk about Matang.
Yeah, Matang's very
I don't think.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's that good, and I think you can't
For
think it's that good.
Sizor, could it make the Dialga V Star work? I don't know.
I think it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay in Dialga, but
It's a fun card to
yeah,
mess around with. It's in that box.
yeah. And then we didn't talk about Ancient Box with Roaring Moon and Koraidon. I mean, I
Hmm.
think they're okay, but I think it's worse than the Future Box. It's simpler. It's a very simple deck to play, but I don't think it's that good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, look, I think, but we said it's an interesting set. I think there's a number of cards that are worth messing around with in it. This set for sure. Are there cards that are going to make a big difference in terms of being top decks? We will see. But it offers a lot of options, which to me is a good makes it a good set, an appealing set to me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I was like really starved of decks for like, well, I mean, it was 5 months since Paradox Shift came out. And Paradox Shift was a cool set, but
Right.
honestly, it was like kind of part one, and this is part two, the Paradox Pokemon stuff. So I'm looking forward to this. I think there's some really cool cards. Also, I'm like I was just thinking about all the other cards that were revealed this week that we're not talking about yet. We might talk about them next time. We might not. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about right now. But I think that's all. Subscribe if you enjoyed. Like, comment, hit the bell. Check out our channels as well. Uncommon Fossil, 10 types, and
Yeah.
the Reasonably Effective podcast as well. right, on podcasting platforms.
Right. Yeah. Podcasting platforms, and just let us know in the comments and YouTube what cards you're looking forward to, because that's always, it's obviously a debate. We obviously had a lot of disagreement, and I've seen other lists that, there's a lot of diversity, which makes things fun. So, looking forward to this new set, and we'll be playing them real soon. All right.
See ya.
Bye.